All right, I will call the Tuesday, June 6, 2023 meeting of the Wethersfield Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Ryan, could you take attendance, please?
You got it. Chairman Roberts.
Here.
Commissioner Allard is here. Hammer is not. Hughes is not. Oikel is not. Commissioner Dean.
Here.
Homicki is not. Edwards is not. Vienna is not. Commissioner Drake.
Here.
Commissioner Liam-Bruni is not. And Commissioner
here.
Thompson.
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a check next to your name, and I got on a roll. I was going. All right. Commissioner Liam-Bruni.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
There we go.
All right, thank you. I'll seat all three alternates. We have three public hearings tonight. The way they're going to work is the applicant will come forward, identify themselves by name and address for the record, describe what it is they want to do. There may be some back and forth and questions from the commission. Once that's done, we'll open it up to members of the public who may have comments. They can come up, identify themselves, direct their comments to the commission. Following that, we will ask the applicant to come back up and respond to any public comment. There may be other questions that have occurred to commission members during the interim, and so that then there'll be a chance to wrap it up. If after all of that, we believe we have enough information to make a decision tonight, we'll close the public hearing and then deliberate. If there's, for whatever reason, information that is missing, or we want more information, we may continue the hearing to our next meeting, which is June 20th. So, first item, public hearing 214723Z, Ecogy Energy Connecticut XIV LLC, seeking a special permit in accordance with sections V53B6 and V54A, accessory use of the Wethersfield Zoning regulations for the installation of a rooftop solar PV system at 11 to 25 Wells Road. Okay.
Yes, thank you. My name is Shelby Hang. I'm the Director of Site and Account Management for Ecogy Energy. This is my associate, Miguel Gomez, who is our Site and Account Manager for the Connecticut region. As you said, we're here tonight to discuss the special use permit for 1125 Wells Road, as well as request a 3-foot variance off of the rear property setback. We prepared a brief presentation, so happy to run through that. So just give a second here for the projector to get going. We can dive into this. So while this is just getting warmed up, I'm happy to give a little bit of a background on who Ecogy is. We are an owner-operator, financier, and developer of renewable power systems up and down mainly the East Coast. We occupy about 12 separate states, Washington, D.C., and the Caribbean. Again, following this model of working with commercial industrial spaces, prioritizing a multiple use design such as rooftop solar or carport canopies to really address the fact that the commercial industrial sector has a lot of land and it historically has created a lot of pollution. So by partnering with these companies, we can bring more renewable power to local communities. As I said, we kind of cover the whole process, soup to nuts, spare, of course, construction and other localized engineering efforts, which we like to work with local firms. But we cover everything from, again, developing, financing, constructing, and then the owning and the operation of commercial scale solar power systems primarily. As I said, we're here to talk today about 1125 Wells Road. It is an Ocean State job lot that is located on the property. You can see it there in the northern section of the parcel. Here's a view of our site plan. We're proposing a 200 kilowatt rooftop solar installation. Again, following the theme of multiple use design, we are looking to make use of a previously underutilized rooftop space, something that just sat up in the sun, degrading from UV radiation. We're aiming to put solar on the rooftop, capture that energy, and then export it all to the grid so actually local community residents in Wethersfield can make use of this renewable generation. This power will not be going to the building, it will be going to the community. All of our equipment is on or around the building. As I said, primarily the solar modules are on the rooftop. You will notice on the northern side there, up in the top right corner, that black rectangle is where our equipment will go. Things like the utility meter that is required, the main shutoff switch for the solar. We thought it best to situate this around the back of the building, out of view, as well as it being on the north side. It will be kept out of the sun and kept a little bit cooler. This is a ballasted system. It will sit on the rooftop without penetrating the roof whatsoever. It has weights that will keep it in place and render it immobile. The system itself will sit about 10 inches, give or take, above the surface of the roof. We have already done structural analyses and other compliance checks to make sure the building and the rooftop are suitable for this installation of solar. We believe it fits a very good fit as far as putting a solar installation on the rooftop, to be frank. As far as some contextual images, this is some front and side views of the building itself. As I mentioned previously, it is an Ocean State job lot. We have worked with Ocean State job lot and a number of other properties that they own for rooftop installations with this exact same purpose of producing green energy to supply to the local community, not the building itself. As I mentioned earlier, it is a fairly underutilized rooftop. We have a lot of open space. The roof is in great standing condition, and we believe putting a, again, ballasting or non-penetrating system on the rooftop is a great use of multiple-use design for this property. As I mentioned with the 3-foot variance setback, on that northern side where I pointed out our equipment earlier, we do expect that by adding that equipment, even though it is required per the utility and necessary for the functioning of the power, that we're going to be about 3 feet over the rear yard setback required on that northern side. As such, we are requesting a 3-foot variance so our equipment can live there on the northern side out of view. There's a little description around what specifically we are requesting. Again, a 3-foot variance for the rear setback of the property line for the installation of our equipment, not the modules on the roof, the, again, main shutoff switch, utility meter, other equipment of the like. One of my favorite parts, the environmental benefits. This system is estimated to be producing about 319,000 kilowatt hours of clean, locally generated electricity every year. That is the equivalent to about 249 tons of carbon dioxide emitted per year that is just avoided. This energy is the equivalent also of roughly about 44 homes that would be consuming electricity on an annual basis. So it is not at all a, silver bullet that's going to solve the climate crisis, but it is one positive step in the right direction here for reaching Connecticut's goals of a carbon-free electrical grid by 2040. Speaking of Connecticut's goals, the NRES program is what makes this project possible. As I mentioned, this is a buy-all program where all the electricity will be bought directly by the utility to be utilized by the local community. The power will not be going to the site itself. It will be going to the localized grid. A little bit about the NRES program. It is going to be benefiting constituents in the Wethersfield community by, again, providing that clean electrical energy to the local grid. It is not going to be impacting open space. It is not going to require any tree removal. It does not require any installations over a green field. This is a already developed structure and represents a good use of not having to go and muck up something new when you have a perfectly good area to work in. As I said, my name was Shelby Hang. I'm the Director of Site and Account Management. This is my associate Miguel. We're happy to take any questions from your end. We're really excited to move this project going. If there is anything we can talk through, we're here for it, but ultimately we're hoping to get moving on this project this summer and looking forward to hopefully an approval tonight. And then we have just the site plan for review if there are any questions.
I just have one question. So I know it's ballasted and you're not penetrating as much, but just curious, are there any structural upgrades that need to happen? It's a relatively old building.
There are not, no. We conducted a structural analysis with an engineering company called McLaren, and I believe we even tested the metal. So we did a very in-depth analysis here and found the roof to have sufficient capacity for supporting the added weight of the solar, in addition to, of course, the live and dead loads that it's already designed for.
Peter?
Could you go back and show where the 3 feet
Certainly.
requirement is that you mentioned? I'm just trying to get a fix on it.
So it's up there in the top right-hand corner, where you see the letters calling out A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Yeah.
That, again, is the equipment that is necessary for the functioning of the solar system. So the modules are producing electricity, but we need this equipment to smooth it out and make it something that's usable for our localized grid. So, as I said, a lot of this equipment is necessary per the utility requirements for having things like a main shut-off switch, a meter to monitor the generation of the clean energy, and other items of the like.
I understand, but why do you need the variance? Are you outside of the side yard requirement? Is that the issue?
The rear yard requirement is
Yeah.
12 feet, and it's not so much the equipment, but once we have the equipment, the working space clearance for that, and then the bollards that would be protecting the equipment, we are 3 feet past that 12-foot rear yard setback, which is why we're requesting the 3-foot variance.
So you're going to be 9 feet within the rear property line?
About 9 feet away from the property line, correct?
Why don't you put it on the east side? Is it just easier connection on the north?
It's an easier connection, it's also the shading of the equipment so it doesn't overheat, and also given the east side is where there's a loading dock, and I think they previously had a trash compactor. We wanted to make sure that we're not hindering the future use of the project or property owners.
Sorry, Tom.
I presume you've tested the wind loading capability of the solar panels to withstand things like hurricane-strength winds?
Correct, yes.
What's the limits on that?
I'll have to double check from our structural analysis, but it's typically always to the state standard of what is necessary, but we can follow up with the exact wind loading numbers.
Okay. In reading the lease between Ocean State Job Lots and your firm for the space on the rooftop, I didn't notice any documentation of the consideration that Ocean State is receiving for having this installation take place. You're not providing power to the building, you're directly feeding the electricity that's generated right into the grid. So what's Ocean State's consideration for this?
Certainly. Through the revenue we can generate by selling the clean electricity, we pay a straight rent payment to Ocean State Job Lot to monetize that underutilized space. So we're essentially renting their rooftop, and as tenants on their space, basically being able to go and build a clean power producing system, and then we basically pay them just an annual rent check. So it's fairly straightforward from their interest perspective.
And I don't recall from reading the lease what the term of the lease is?
It's 25 years.
25 years.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you have annual maintenance requirements for
We do.
this?
Twice annually. As owners and operators, we want to make sure the systems are always up to the highest quality possible. So typically, at minimum, twice a year, we'll be going out and visiting the systems. We also have an asset management team that monitors our systems 24/7, and in the event of any outage or any discrepancy, we're able to get a tech out to site within 24 hours.
And within the past couple of months, the Attorney General for the state of Connecticut has initiated a lawsuit against a major solar installer, I think a firm that's based on the West Coast, who's done some nefarious activities within the state of Connecticut. Are you in any way connected by virtue of ownership or equity interests, cross-pollination of boards of directors or other kinds of affiliations with that firm?
We are not. We're a small, independent company. We're independently financed as well, so we're not really beholden to large venture capitalists and financing from that term. So, no, we are independent and not affiliated with that in any way.
I appreciate it. I suspected, what your answers were all going to be, but I thought it important to get the things on the record because since I tend to favor such projects as this, I think they're very important both for the economy and for public health and environmental concerns, that such projects as this take place and are encouraged within the town. So I thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you much, Mayor Sedina. Appreciate the discourse.
Paul?
Quick question. How does the power that's generated get into the grid? Is that going to require additional lines or?
It will require additional lines, but it will not require additional overhead pole-top lines. Essentially, from that top right corner where our equipment is, we'll be moving over and tying into the utility transformer that is off to the eastern side of the building. And from that transformer, the power will be exported back to the grid.
Okay, so no additional wires going out to the highway or? Okay.
No, nothing like that.
Good project, thank you.
Thank you, yeah. We're excited about it. As I said, it really represents a fairly path of least resistance for what makes sense to us as a good site for solar.
Dave?
Just curiosity, what's the voltage that you send into the street with, out of the equipment
At the voltage of the street, I believe it's
that you're connecting to?
250 volts?
480,
Yeah, it would be 250.
that's gotta be more.
Typically, it would be at either 480 volts or 208, depending on the existing service here. I believe that this is a 120, 208 service. Yes, here we are, over on the right hand.
Pardon me again, I noticed that the only comments that I have seen in terms of town staff review of your plans is from the town fire marshal, who had 2 recommendations. Have you seen that memorandum? And
I do not believe I have, no.
okay, well, I'm going to then read what those recommendations are from the fire marshal. He said, number 1, upon completion of the project, quote, the contractor will provide a site review for fire department personnel to review safety precautions and shutdown of system. Number 2, signage shall be installed on the south and east side of the building, alerting emergency personnel of the solar equipment on the roof, end quote. Does, if those recommendations were made as conditions to the approval by this commission of your plan, would that constitute a problem or an obstacle or generate opposition on the part of your firm?
Thank you for asking that. No, it will not present any issue. We would be happy to do that. That is standard protocol on our projects. Unless I'm mistaken, I believe that the direction around the signage in particular is part of NFPA 70, which we do comply to on all our projects. So there's no problem at all on our end. We constantly are syncing up with fire departments to make sure they know where they need to go in terms of rapid shutdown. We install plaques and directories on all of our systems so you can see clearly where those main points of shutoff may be if there's more than one. So we are more than happy to do all of that.
Thank you.
Peter?
Yeah, this is a great project. I just have a question of interest here. It may be covered in your lease. It was a long lease, so I didn't go through it in detail. But at some point, you're gonna have to redo the roof, right? Roofer has to be, what is it, tar, I guess, and stone. How do you do that with all that equipment on there? And then after 25 years, if you so choose to leave the site, is it your responsibility to take everything off and do the repairs? I mean, how does that work?
Yep, great questions. So essentially, part of our work that we do on our end to qualify and make sure that we are following our due diligence is verifying the lifetime or expected lifetime of the roofing material. We've done those checks. We've consulted with roofing consultants. We've reviewed the warranty that exists for the current roof. So we do expect this roof to last the lifetime. At the end of the term, it is within our contract that Ecogy takes on the onus to remove the entire installation and restore the existing rooftop to its present condition, or to the condition it was at the time of our installation. So basically restoring that rooftop condition at the end of our 25-year term. And then if the roof does need for any reason during those 25 years, additional maintenance, it's a matter that we coordinate with the site to see where can we locally, power down and remove some modules to make sure that whatever work needs to be done on the roof can be done. But I think it is worth mentioning, we do have setbacks for both access around the roof as well as around all of the rooftop mechanicals, like the HVACs and other units, so that regular maintenance that might be expected on motors and things like that can go on unhindered throughout the term of the solar being on the roof. We're not looking to make anyone's job harder.
And just a related question on the maintenance. What's the lifetime of the panel itself?
So the modules actually are related to why we have a 25-year term. They are warranted for 25 years to guarantee an 80% power output on day one of year 25, as they did on day one of the module being installed.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
No, do they, is it a 10% slope,
A 10-degree slope, I believe, right? Mino?
Yep, 10 degrees.
10 degree? Do they face to the south or to the west?
They do face to the south.
Okay. Are they visible from either the ground or, say, the far end of the parking lot? I know there's some kind of fake parapets on parts of the building, but I don't know what kind of, elevation there is generally.
Yeah, I think if you were trying, you certainly could see maybe the side frame of the modules. The structure itself is about 25 feet tall. The modules are going to add plus or minus 10 inches to that. So it might be visible from certain angles if you're on raised ground. But in general, given the time we've spent on site, we think that for large parts and all intents and purposes, the system will be largely out of sight, out of mind.
And there won't be any glare?
No glare.
Okay. On the variance that you're looking for, under our regulations, we're very limited when we can give variances. We can only do it in the village business or the town center zone. And the building is in the GB zone where we don't have authority to grant a variance. What's the setback there, 10 feet?
Yes.
Is it possible to move it within that?
We could certainly look into moving it within that. I would also
I mean,
add,
the alternative would be go get a variance from the zoning board of appeals and keep it where you want it.
I would add in the efforts of being best prepared, we did explore alternative locations for the equipment that would remove the need for a variance. So if a variance is going to hold us up from reaching an approval tonight, we're happy to withdraw that request and move forward just with the special permit application and a waiver of the site plan review, given it's a built structure.
Okay. And just so that I get the, kind of the lay of the land, that's the parking lot behind the office building at, 2030 Beaver Road that backs up to?
You might have got me there with the Beaver Road question. I'm not certain I'm familiar with that. Can you speak to that? Mino?
Dental Associates.
Yeah, I know that's a separate tenant, right, separate ownership to the parking lot in front of the equipment placement. Don't know the exact address for it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that's Battiston's, and then you go down, and that's kind of the back of that building. I've never been that far back, so.
It is 20 Beaver Road.
Okay, so it's non-residential.
That's right.
Okay. That's all I have. Tom?
With regards to the setback issue, everyone keeps mentioning a variance. Is truly a variance what is required, or could there be a waiver of the setback requirements for the built into the approval of the application?
The waiver is only available for the village business in the town center zone. So the building itself is within the general business zone, so we don't have the same provision.
So we don't have
available.
that discretion.
Right.
That's right.
So we really can't approve the setback request tonight, right? So they would have to go either the ZBA or change their design.
Change the location.
Change the
He said
location.
he changed the location for proof, so.
We're happy to
Where
change.
would that be? Do you have any idea? You obviously probably have a backup plan.
We would most likely move it to the eastern side,
Eastern side.
kind of close to where those cars are parked, underneath the overhead electric lines.
All right, that's good.
So again, just to reiterate, if it is possible to have a vote for an approval, we're happy to withdraw the request for the variance.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just one. This probably doesn't make any difference, but if Ocean State leaves, that's between you and them, that's your problem, right?
It's a simple transfer of lease. Oftentimes, new tenants actually, it's a benefit because they're buying a property that already has a stable income stream.
All right. Anybody else? All right, if not, you can, I don't think you have to go too far. Is there anybody who would like to comment on this application? Anybody in the public? Going once? All right. I don't see anybody. Come on back up. Does anybody have any last questions? Tom?
Question for the town planner's office. Were there any public comments that were made with regards to this application, either via email, written communication, or even oral communications to the office?
I didn't get any comments, and I also did not get any inquiries.
Okay, thank you.
It's a question, Denise, just following up. In the 300 feet that they're required to notify, are there any residences in that circle, or is that all business? You know?
I don't know that the abutters is within your
There are some
packet.
residences
yeah.
up toward the east.
Yeah, I mean, there may be somebody over there.
Yeah, so residences were notified, I guess, and they're aware of it, okay.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
could, I would imagine, possibly, actually, it may fall with outside
I see it.
of the 300, except for
Across.
Spring Street properties. So yes, there were residential properties that were notified.
okay,
Oh, from the edge of the parking lot.
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So in addition to the two recommendations of the fire marshal, my only comment was that, you know, the commission should consider whether or not screening of the east and south elevation would be necessary, as mentioned by Rich.
We worried so much about the east and south, so much as the
I
west.
think screening would look worse.
There's a parapet,
Yeah,
there's a
right.
parapet on one side, right?
Just out of curiosity, what kind of screening can you put there? I mean, you're only talking a foot, right, basically?
For a rooftop installation, screening can be a little tricky. I mean, you can install a parapet if you want over the rooftop. However, that would be something that would be quite costly. It might not really provide much of a ultimate solution. But yeah, typically with rooftops, we've found it's more of something that largely is either goes unnoticed or people kind of like to see because while they may not think it's the prettiest, at least I think that's a nice thing for their community to have.
Tom?
With regards to the screening issue, according to the testimony of the applicant, there would only be a maximum of about 10 inches or less that would be potentially exposed. I think that's negligible, and also be concerned about any impact upon the wind load characteristics of the of such screening in terms of its impact upon the solar panels themselves. So I tend to be opposed to screening in this respect. I don't think it really adds to, to negate any distressful appearance for this project. So I just think it's unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, and the last time we went wild on rooftop screening was at the high school, which turned out to be worse than what we were trying to screen.
Yeah, I mean, this commission's we're not terrific designers, so.
Yeah, I get some arborvitae's up there. All right, did you have anything else?
Nothing from our end.
Okay. If there's no other comments from the commission, someone want to make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now you can sit.
Thank you very much for your time.
Does
you.
someone want to make a motion to start discussion?
I'll move the project as follows. I move that this commission approve project or item number 2147-23Z, Ecogy Energy Connecticut, Roman numeral 14 LLC, and subject to the following conditions. Those conditions, number 1 and 2, that are identified on the plan review comments dated June 5, 2023, from Anthony Dignati, the town fire marshal, and that this commission will not otherwise address issues of setback requirements or the waiver that had been requested by the applicant, that we will not address that at all.
Because that request was withdrawn.
And that request was withdrawn, so
Okay.
noted.
Yep. Is there a second? All right. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, next item, 3.2, public hearing, 214823Z, Old Town Café, seeking special permit modifying condition number 1, hours of operation of special permit 283Z at 181, 189 Main Street.
Figure I'll wait. Hi, my name is Christine Kelly Lasella. I live at 37 Belmont Street here in Wethersfield. I'm here representing the Old Town, as well as Andy Sanzaro, the owner. Andy is not feeling well. He has a bronchial infection, and we didn't want him coming here, so we left him home. He did type something up he asked me to read. Please excuse his absence. He has a bronchial infection. As far as the application tonight, we are here to modify condition number 1 and extend the patio closing hour to be 11 p.m. to allow for the continuity of hours of all the businesses along Main Street. In the past few weeks, Christine, me, and myself have been working with the state to garner the patio endorsement on our liquor license. We now have our patio license from the state, and we appreciated the approval from this board with the help that helped this process along. So I have met with the liquor control agents. They came out. I had everything signed, and I'm kind of happy to say that we had it weeks ahead of COVID expiration stuff. We've also learned many establishments have failed to apply for the state or even town approvals, and we were notified there'd be a crackdown on unregulated businesses. In that vein, and with the time and effort we have put in, we believe in fairness that the adjustment to an 11 p.m. closing just makes sense all around. I drove down Main Street a few weeks ago at 10:40 p.m., and the folks at Charles and Lucky Lou's were out and about on their patios, and rightly so. Again, it just follows that our hours should be in line for continuity going forward. Thank you, Andy Sanzaro, 72 Broad Street, President, Old Town Café Incorporated. So effectively, we're just asking for continuity, and I believe at the April 4th meeting, it was Mr. Oikel who kind of expressed that, and when we left, we just were like, well, we got approval. I was not aware until after that meeting what Lucky Lou's and the Charles had. And again, I live in this town, I grew up here, and I think with the improvements and the businesses on Main Street, fair would be fair, and continuity, I think, is a great thing for everybody. You guys leave a meeting and you say, hey, let's stop at the Old Town in Luna's and have a pizza, but I have to tell you at 9:50, you gotta get off the patio. And then you might decide, well, then I'm gonna go to Charles or Lucky Lou's. So that's really what we're asking for, just to be the same as everybody else. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Peter?
I'm confused about this 11 o'clock. I was at the Charles this weekend, and I asked the question, when do you guys close the outdoor activity? They said 10. and they said that they do that pretty regularly earlier to make sure that the area is clear. They also told me that they shut off the lights not to bother the neighbors. Now, I don't know about Lucky Lou's. So is it true that the other businesses have it to 11 or not? I'm confused.
The Charles approval is until 11 PM. Lucky Lou's does not have an active outdoor patio approval right now.
So the Charles is doing 10 o'clock on their own?
They must be, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure it's like 10 o'clock as like a habit, but if they have like an event or they just have like a crowd, like they're gonna let it ride. Yeah.
Tom?
And as I recall from past hearings with regards to the Charles, I think their testimony was, that, and I'm ready to stand corrected on this, but my impression is that they indicated that they were going to be closing up at 10, but that's the time in which they start getting things cleared up, and it could take a half an hour to an hour after that to complete their cleanup activities. So in effect, you know, they would have until the 11 o'clock hour.
But their approval is for 11, so
Right.
they're in 11.
Right.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, anybody in the public want to comment on this?
Good evening, Commissioners. Rob O'Connor, 180 Main Street. I don't know where to begin. One thing I would like to thank Denise for printing out in the packet all the other approvals, because as fun as it is to come to this Groundhog Day thing for this one place, it's confusing. I mean, you go back to 2015 and there were different times, and according to the owner's letter, he wants to go back to 2015. And the 2015 list of all the things are: beverage and service shall only be on the front patio, 6 tables only, outdoors shall be screened as above shown. I guess there was a screening thing. I think some of this was for was the breakfast restaurant on the left-hand side, because Old Town didn't serve food, only that place served food. So that's, I mean, I guess I have a parenthetical question, is when you go to amend only one item, does it open up all the other ones? Like if somebody wishes it goes back to 2015, does everything go back? Or is this just about extending that 1 hour past 10 on the application that they just had us go through on a month ago, on April 4th?
That's what the
You have to-
application is for. It's
Yeah.
limited to that one.
Yeah. So my question there is that, I mean, I sort of walked away confused too as the time, and we're only talking about Friday and Saturday night, 10 o'clock, talking about 2 hours. And underlying is, I mean, it's nice that they aspire to be the Charles and Lucky Lou's, but those two places are restaurants. Those are sit-down, serviced by waitress and waiters, managed by a staff. That 2 hours they're talking about is 2 hours of drinking. I mean, I will refute anybody that says somebody might come out with a pizza once in a while. And I think by the address you can tell I live across the street. I have cameras to back up this is not me taking the one drive down the street and seeing. Lucky Lou's is quiet, and I think they got their music taken away from them because one neighbor didn't like it. But when their outdoor music is on, it's set back from the street. You can't even hear it from my house, from across the street until you get to it. This is a different building. This is on the street, around brick, echoing like crazy. And so I think one of the things is the noise alone. For myself, the owner mentions how they have done some of these things, to respect. They could be open. I'm confused because it says they walked away, they didn't know what the time was that they just were told. And then they also don't know, they said that I believe we are allowed till 11, but we're just not doing this in deference to the residential neighbors. But they also have a neighbor across the street that has a business, that's in the business of hospitality, people sleeping peacefully in their beds probably after 10 o'clock, which is a reasonable thing. I think the Charles owner, when he came into that business, was like, I'm going to be deferential to my residents. They do shut down at 10. If people are eating dinner, they're not going to kick them out to finish up their dinner. But I can say the last 2 years, through COVID, I could look at my windows, and at 10 o'clock, even inside was lights off. So Lucky Lou's lights off. The 11 o'clock for this business doesn't matter because it's open till 2, and there's no, you might as well just, go all the way, or there's nobody out there from in between 10 and 11 not just drinking, I would say. So what you're doing is you're extending an hour for people to go outside and drink more, who are pulling out in cars at 11 o'clock, driving home at 11 o'clock. They're not sitting and having, finishing up their tiramisu and having a coffee at 11 o'clock or 10:45. So I really think, you made a deal with them in the last meeting on April 4th. Everybody agreed. I came back in here after a little confrontation with the owners over some of the things, even that I read in here, that are not accurate. Let's just put it that way. One of the things saying that there was no food service during the COVID rules, but the only way you could serve alcohol out there was to have food service. So they had food service. So did you have food service? Didn't you have food service? Are you open till 11? Or are you open till 10? Are there hand sanitizers out there as you were, every single 2015, 2016, all say these things will be taken care of. They're not. It's not a big deal either, I don't think. I think the business does just fine the way it is. It would do fine with the 2 hours with people inside the bar drinking like a bar is supposed to be doing. And then there's also the confusion of the Luna versus Old Town Café, because you passed their permit for, which is I guess a year and a half ago, it says 8 o'clock is their limit. So, and I remember the meeting saying, how are you going to tell, the owners in Luna were like, how are you going to tell whether they're Old Town customers or Luna customers? Because right now, the Old Town can serve something, I don't know what it is, either alcohol and or a pizza from Luna's that cannot serve at after 8 o'clock. But in common, they both do even what they're not doing what they're agreeing to. But it's just like to keep on extending and creeping it forward. It's just like, it would be better to pull the whole thing and redraw this as either one business and a legitimately thing, like a pizza place that has a bar hook to it, and go through all the regulations. And I think that's just one of the things that I want to point out. But again, when you go through like I said, Denise did all these other years and the permits and the exemptions. Like Luna's has a point that says no expansion of the existing dining area unless approved by the commission. Old Town got more seating, but technically Luna's didn't, unless these are one business. So I don't know whether the commission looks at it as one business, or I don't think the regulations, if they were really pressed, are one business. It's still two businesses. So that's it. I also want to compliment them on that. Andy in his letter has all the things that they've done to support the town and the fabric of the town. I totally acknowledge. I think that they are a good business at heart. It's just it's not a personal thing for me. It's just that fair is fair, but in the Village Business District, there's supposed to be a fairness between residents and businesses and customers and the people that are in here and the taxpayers that are all around that area, and not just, I want to be like them, give me another hour. That's not, I could start doing the same thing, and everybody could, but that's why we have a planning and zoning, and we have regulations that are on paper, so it's I appreciate all the work you guys do and sorting everything out, and thanks for your time.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else in the public that wants to speak on this application? If not, do you want to come back up? All right. Is there anything in addition that you want to say?
I think that I don't want to say Mr. O'Connor's painting a picture, but I stopped at the Old Town. I'm sorry. I stopped at the Old Town this past Friday, and it was really nice to, we have people, they're sitting out eating pizza. There was a birthday party going on for a young man in town, and his family came, like his uncle was a friend of mine, and, lots of different generations, and people are enjoying the patio. People enjoyed the patio on Memorial Day. That was a daytime event. It is not where you have a group of younger people at, 10:30 at night out on the patio singing. We don't have music out there. For the most part, the young people stay inside, and they do get pizza, and they play music on the CD player. But I think, as I said before, what we're looking for is to be able to allow customers, whether it's myself or any one of you who might get out of a meeting and say, well, yeah, let's go down and have a pizza and kind of debrief. I don't want to have to say, well, you can only sit outside for 20 minutes. You might say, well, yeah, I don't want to go inside. I want to be outside on the patio and then go elsewhere. So it's not, and let me say that there have been opportunities for me when I've been in there and there was a wedding or a big event, and I could go back a year ago and people were congregating on the patio. They're taken off. Like we just say, it's more of a house rule to say we can say the patio's closing at 10 if there were loud or boisterous behavior out there. We are not trying to have, a college frat party. We're trying to allow Luna Pizza. The building is owned by Andy and my father, and we share that space with them as an accommodation because as the Old Town, we need to have food available for our customers. That's part of our liquor permit with the state of Connecticut. And it's been working really well, and it makes me happy to see what we have been allowed to have people and families come, and people might bring their dog. So it's a nice atmosphere. It's not rowdy. I've been to Lucky Lou's when there's a band and music, and it's probably a little bit louder down there, but not rowdy. I mean, that's what people do. They get together and they laugh and they have a good time. And I have always accommodated, if there's a complaint, I don't turn my cheek, Andy doesn't turn his cheek and say, well, we don't care. We do care about our neighbors. I care about my town a lot, and I care about following the rules, which is why I extended myself to Andy to say, let me make sure we have all our I's dotted, T's crossed, and do this the right way in contacting you guys and the state.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Tom?
Yes, ma'am. I think there's been, I remember from the April hearing and, past hearings, going back to the, earlier years of this century that were outlined in the town planner's memorandum. Now, the relationship between Luna Pizza and the Old Town Café, Luna Pizza is technically within the confines of the Old Town Café building space, is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes.
It is a separate business?
Yes, sir.
The relationship between Luna Pizza and Old Town Café with regards to food service, Luna Pizza with regards to the food service of Old Town Café is a subcontractor of Old Town Café for that particular purpose. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say subcontractor. He leases the space from Andy. Andy has the building 181 to 189, and they came along and said, we want to rent that space. Very similar to other folks that have leased the space in years past.
So for meeting any food requirements of Old Town Café, Luna Pizza is the entity to whom Old Town Café looks for that service.
Exactly. And some of the rules and laws and verbiage with the state have changed since COVID. Years ago, it would be if you were open, a restaurant is open or a bar on Christmas Day, you have to serve hot food. There was restrictions with, say, minors sitting at a bar, and they're changing things up. That doesn't change in our book, but, they'll say, oh, parents could bring a kid in, or, You don't necessarily have to have food prepared on premise, but you have to have food available. But we prefer, it makes sense for us, like, to have snacks, pizzas, sandwiches. They do burgers, they do a lot. They have a really good menu. You should try their pizza. But it's available for our customers, and then it allows us to say, yeah, we have food available.
And in regards to the totality of the functions and services that Old Town Café provides, either through, its own functions or that of its subcontractor, Luna Pizza, it seems to me that that Old Town Café basically functions as sort of an American equivalent to an English pub.
I mean, I think, the last time I was here, I think I tried to emphasize that. It's, I meet a lot of really cool people, and I've worked there a long time, and everybody has a story, and I had a guy come in yesterday from New York, and he was selling his cocktail sauce, and he's from Brooklyn, but he found the pub, and it's a place for people to come together and meet and talk. It's not, let's, dance on the tables and drink shots and beers and go crazy. It's a nice place, and people come there to unwind, and I have a great clientele of all, walks and whatever of life. It's the neighborhood bar, but it's a place where people come and they feel comfortable, and that's what we try to do.
Now, got a question for Denise. In your memorandum, you listed or cited the various applications that have basically, been approved from the year 2000 for this particular site. Now, are all of those approvals that you cited, are all of those in the name of Old Town Café, or is there any other business for which those approvals with the conditions thereof attach?
The differentiation is not so much the name of the applicant, it would be the property that the application was for. So the majority of the applications were specific to the entirety of the 181 to 189. There was one application when Luna originally came in 2021 that was specific just to 181 to 183. So when they came in for the patio in April, that application was for the entirety of the property. So that would supersede the Luna approval in 2021.
I appreciate the clarification, thank you.
Maybe a little bit, maybe I'm just a little bit confused. So the various approvals being granted to the property, and really the right way to think about this then is the property is like a multi-tenant business. It would be no different than if I had a large business and I opened some WeWork space and some other little businesses in it. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and
regulated as the building property.
because essentially the approvals run with the land, not with the tenant.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, the 98 and 99 ones are probably for the restaurant that used to be there.
Right, the Red Onion.
Yeah. Dave and then Peter.
Just to clarify, I've been kind of catching up on all this stuff from before, but it says back in November 21, no food service outdoors after 8. Did we ever change that? So
Yes, that was changed as part of the April 4th,
I
2023.
don't see that in there. It said the restaurant can be till 10. I don't see anything about outside. I'm just kind of curious. You're going
Well,
outside there.
you know what, I think when COVID hit, everything was kind of wonky, and Old Town Restaurant, he had to close up, and we did serve food. We were running the kitchen, and I can go back to 1974 and tell you where the kitchen was and how it expanded, and my father ran it, we ran it for years, and then we started having other people come. So right after COVID, we were running the kitchen because we had to have food available in order to operate. People weren't allowed to sit at the bar, people were sitting outside.
No, I understand all that.
Luna
Right
came.
now, you're going outside till 10, right?
That's what we were approved
Yeah, food
after
service
April.
outside.
Yes, sir.
Unless we missed in the time.
Nope, Luna Pizza is open, they stay open until
No, I asked
11
about
or
open.
12.
Are they eating outside
Uh-huh,
till 10? I'm not seeing.
I mean-
approval.
That's the April one.
that was in April.
So it just wasn't, there was
Is the
no
wording different?
condition
Okay, okay.
attached
Fair enough.
that
So-
would
but
limit
the-
that.
Okay.
And I think when Luna came originally, I don't know that it bears any significance. When he came originally, it was in 2021, and it honestly took him way longer to open up, and the business model, plan, whatever have you, was still kind of on the
I
table.
understand that just the typing doesn't say
Oh, okay.
outside till 10, so I just, it's fine. I remember we approved that, I just not seeing it here, but that's fine. So 8 to 10, okay.
So, Rich, my question, I guess this has been answered. Luna can be open with food service till 10. Is that what's approved? As of?
Right now.
As of what date? When was
As
that?
of the April 4th, 2023.
The latest approval.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and that's
Prior-
Old
prior-
Town, not
right.
Luna.
Prior to that, it was 8 o'clock.
In 2021, it was 8 o'clock, but.
For outdoors.
But when, yeah. But if you go back to the May 19th, 2015 approval, service for outdoor dining shall end at 9, so it's kind of gone back and forth.
Yeah, and then in 2020, it was 11.
Right, the hours of operation of the restaurant shall be no later than 11.
Yeah, but again, 21 was 8 again,
Right.
and we moved it up to 10. So we're at 10 right now. We all agree we're at 10.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Want to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, hearing's closed. Someone want to make a motion for discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve item 3.2, 214823Z, Old Town Café, special approval to modify condition 1 for hours of operation from 10 to 11, according to special permit 213823Z for 181, 189 Main Street.
Second.
Just so we're clear, that
You wanna
the
add
10
this?
from April was Friday and Saturday, so the 11
Okay,
is also Friday and Saturday?
correct. All right.
Do you want to add engineering comments? We didn't talk about them, but they're all reasonable.
What was this?
I don't know what, if anything, these have to do with being open an hour longer.
That-
I mean, these
They were
probably,
just carried over from the comments that he made from the original outdoor patio approval.
Same reason, if maybe you're outside at nighttime, maybe you want a few of these safety issues taken care of, but I don't know, we don't have to, but it's the same reason to me.
I suppose, but I didn't see the relevance.
Maybe not.
all right, discussion?
I'm not supportive of extending it an hour. I think that it feels like creep to me, just looking back through this history. And, 10 o'clock is reasonable. I think the decision was correct last time, to extend it to 10 and to give them a 2-year, I think a 2-year window to do that. I think we should just stay with that and see how it works out. To within, what, a couple months to come back and change that again, I just don't see why. We haven't even tried the 10 o'clock. So I feel that we should stay the course, and I will not be supportive of this.
Okay, thanks. Any other discussion?
I understand the difference in business type, I understand the difference in business type when you compare and contrast, say, to Charles or Lucky Lou's. But at the same time, I think my feeling is consistency is important to consider too. So if the other businesses are allowed to stay open till 11, why would we not support consistency of hours? That would be my thought there.
I don't think Lucky Lou's is open to 11. We went through that.
But they can be
Say
open
Lucky
till
Lou's
11.
doesn't have one.
No, Lucky Lou's doesn't have it, no.
So,
Well, they don't have a permit for music. I think they're allowed outdoor dining under the law.
Until 11? Okay.
I think until midnight.
Oh.
Yeah, but Pete does make a good point. One is more of a bar atmosphere, and the other is more of a formal restaurant of some sort. I don't know how far you extend that, but it is something different.
Yeah.
you know.
And I mean, how much can an hour difference make? And if it's better for the neighborhood, let's stick with what we
What does
agreed.
Village Pizza do? They go outside and say anything approved on their little outside thing?
They do have outdoor dining. I'm not sure exactly what
What
time
way,
they
how
close
late?
their patio.
Yeah, I don't have any idea.
Yeah, I think, I guess I'm agreeing more with Peter about just rather than, I was thinking originally about the consistency of the hours, but also the consistency of like this section of Main Street where Charles is pretty much shut down by 10. Like if I decide I want to go get a drink at the Charles and it's 10 o'clock, I'm not going because inside is closed. And that's more often than not. Like even on, maybe they have a wedding and, they're open to the inside and probably have some people spill into the outside. So it's not all that consistent. I think I like 10 o'clock better as just a more sort of context-sensitive time to end some outdoor conversations and stuff when you have residences in your direct line of sight, like right across the street. I think you're in an area and you're a historic business in the area, but you also are in, you have to abide by the location that you're in. So I guess in my opinion, 10 doesn't seem unreasonable, especially because they can still do everything that they're gonna do just inside. I don't know, that's my opinion on it.
I mean, that's what
Dave.
I agree with you guys. I think 10 at this point. It's probably not unreasonable. It's, where it is and the bed and breakfast across there. I mean, it's a little different location.
I'd feel different if
Little
they were
different
going in
restaurant.
and couldn't also buy drinks and.
I agree with
Yeah,
100%.
and they could always go in and drink, yeah. You okay, Tom?
Stretching?
Just stay close enough to vote.
I just have a leg cramp.
You're good,
Okay.
you're good.
Yeah, all right. We don't have absentee voting for planning and zoning
We'll
yet.
wheel them in for the vote. and then-
Yeah, we've been voting for the last 14
Your
days.
team's in.
Yeah. All right. Any further discussion on this? If not, the motion was to approve the modification. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
All right. Motion fails. Thank you.
Question, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify the vote, this is with prejudice or without prejudice? That is, it does not preclude, our vote tonight does or does not preclude the applicant from coming in at a later date and requesting the alteration of the hours at some time in the future?
I would hope they still have a chance.
Yeah, I think it's more a matter of, how much time has elapsed and has there been any change in circumstance between then and now? So, whether that's in 2 years from April when, the original permit expires or, when there's been some change in, their business, the law applicable to outdoor dining or whatever. I think, we don't have the hard and fast rule that applies to ZBA variances, but generally, you have to be given a reason why you look at something that you've already decided. And that's usually because there has been some kind of change in circumstances.
As I recall, the idea behind the hours that were set back in April, the 10 p.m. hour, the concept, as I understood it, was to be kind of a trial period for a couple of years or thereabouts, and it could be revisited at the end of that time period. Would that correspond to your indicative of a change in circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, and just the fact that it has a time deadline on it, you know, inherently begs the question that you're going to look at it again. All right, no, do what you need to do. Okay. Public hearing number 3.3, 2145 23Z, AMG Retail I LLC. Number 516, seeking a special permit in accordance with section 53B6, accessory use for the installation of outdoor storage display of propane case with crash barriers, and section 36C2, excuse me, accessory building and structures for a storage container of the Wethersfield zoning regulations at 384 Silestein Highway. Just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Joe DeMayo, 17 Nelson Street, East Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
Board members, good evening. I'm Danny Porco, 55 South Columbus Ave, Mount Vernon, New York.
All right. Tell us what you'd like to do.
We'd like to put a propane storage container on the left-hand side of the building as you're facing it to service people who need propane. It's a swap-out container system. And in the back of the building, we'd like to add a 8 by 40-foot storage container to store additional material for the sale and merchandise in the store. By doing that, it'll make the store more efficient. It'll alleviate multiple deliveries. We can consolidate some of the product in there.
Do you sell propane there now?
No, sir.
Okay.
Is this like a shipping container?
Yes, sir.
Rich, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Your storage container in the back here, that's what you're talking about, is a shipping container?
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
It's not a structure, it's a
No,
container?
it's a shipping container, sir.
The question I have is, it shows, this is an old survey, I think it goes back to 1980, and there's an approximate edge of the Helco right-of-way, and I see you sketched in here that you're going to be just touching that, but how do you know where that is? Have you done a survey? Have you hired an engineer?
Actually, yes, sir. We just got a new survey in today. I can give a copy to the board.
Okay, yeah, because it's not clear, how close you really are, it's just a sketch,
I picked it up on my way here. I haven't had an opportunity to.
So this is, okay, so you're gonna put it in here?
Yes, sir.
Does it fit there?
Yes, it does.
Okay. It's a new survey, just an accurate survey.
Survey says?
He doesn't show the container, but he says it.
I picked that up on my way here, sir. I didn't have an opportunity to sketch it in.
All right. How big is the container?
8 feet wide, 40 feet long.
8 feet wide.
He's gonna tuck it in
8
that
feet.
corner there.
8 feet
that left
square?
corner.
8 feet wide
8 by 8
and
by
40 feet long.
Eight by eight
Attached to the
by
building.
Attached to the back of the building, right?
It's just, it's not attached.
It's not
I
attached.
understand. It's a truck with wheels, okay.
It's not attached to the back of the building, sir. There's an access door to it.
Meant behind the building.
All right, so it's not, we're not worried about the setbacks, you're just worried about the CLMP easement.
Right away, yeah.
Yeah. Is there going to be any kind of screening?
We haven't planned anything, sir, but that's an option if you'd like.
Yeah, because I mean, the right-of-way easement is pretty well cleared out, and all those houses behind it have a very good view.
Good point.
We can do,
One for the day.
we can do a white vinyl fence along the back if the zoning commission would like that.
Sorry, say that again?
We can do a white vinyl fence along the back to hide the container.
Yeah, I was just trying to look at a picture of what's behind.
There's a railroad track there, right?
There's railroad tracks and, Eversource and vegetation growth.
Oh, what you see in the aerial, there's been clearing since then?
Okay, because I see like a tree right there right now.
Yes, sir, that tree is still there. The container would not affect the tree.
All right. And where it's been cleared, Denise, is the row of houses on Stillman behind it.
Within the CLMP easement, there's been some clearing.
Okay, so this could be visible from the Stillman walk side?
Could you explain where you would put the vinyl fence, on your property line? Where would it go?
We'd run it up, tied up against the storage container.
Oh, right along the right-of-way?
Yep.
Yeah, because they probably couldn't put it in the right of way.
Right,
Correct.
okay.
The propane cage is on the sidewalk?
Yes, sir, it'd be on the left-hand side of the building on the sidewalk.
On the sidewalk, okay.
And there'd be crash barriers to protect it.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, I just beg your indulgence.
This is what I'm looking at. He's got a new survey.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard, they did a whole new survey.
Yeah, sure, at the time.
Because this is a very old survey, and you just sketched it by hand, it's not colored. He's an engineer, and it's just been done.
Yeah, there's the new survey.
Okay, thanks.
What's all the other work that's being done there now?
We're remodeling the store, sir, and putting a new facade on it. New ceramic tile, ceiling tiles, lights, new fixtures inside the store, nicer selection, and expanding the selection for groceries.
Okay. Do you have anything?
I just have a question. The neighbor on your left side there, what is that business?
I think it's a
That's a
fortune-
salon, sir, beauty parlor, and I believe massage upstairs. Not massage in that sense, but he does facials and that kind of stuff.
So will he be able to see that container from his property?
No, not from the back, sir. Because of the way the shape of the building, if he's in the parking lot and you're parking your car in the back of their parking lot by the dumpster and stuff, as you're walking through the parking lot, you could possibly see the container.
Somehow I thought it was a fortune teller.
Maybe at one point.
You have your fortune told there, Mike?
No, I'm saying, don't go to the food bag. Yeah, Tom.
In reviewing the survey that's just been presented to us, where is the storage of the gas containers?
If I-
That new 24 by 12 storage area that you're looking
If I
for?
may, sir, because I just picked that up.
Kind of right here.
Okay, because it's not shown on the survey.
I literally picked this up, so that would be right about here, sir.
Okay. From here, that would be sort of the starting point, and then on back, or
No, the
forward?
storage container is over here, and this would be for the propane. Is that what you're asking?
Okay, so this is where the
Propane.
propane containers would be?
Yes, sir.
They're stored in
No,
an
this-
area back here?
No, there's a propane cage here for swap-out tanks.
Yeah,
And then back here, we're looking to put in a 8-foot wide by 40-foot long storage container to provide merchandise and supplies for the store.
okay, that was my question.
And to eliminate, constant deliveries, the store be able to stockpile some merchandise and stuff.
Okay, that
Make the
clarifies
store
one of my
more
questions. I'm like, that's a big container, that's a lot of propane. I'm like,
Yeah,
and we do a lot of barbecuing
No,
in town.
the storage container in the back of the building is not for propane.
I was going to say they're going to do great business with propane.
That's a lot of barbecue.
I think we all like barbecue.
And you said that screening would be definitely, if we...
Yes, we can screen the back of it in, so it's not visible for the people behind the facility, and if we need to do a return for the building on the left.
Tom?
With regards to your large storage area for the containers that would be in the rear of the building, do you have a count of how many containers would actually be stored there as sort of your inventory of supplies of containers?
Well, it would be limited, just as a use, once we accept deliveries, to take on the delivery, and then as we go through to restock the store.
How
So-
many containers?
There's one single container is what we're proposing.
Yeah, there's no propane going to be in that
Right.
container. It's
So
Cheez-Its and
there's
toilet paper and things like that.
There's two items that we're requesting on the left side of the building, is a propane cage for a swap out of cylinders. And the rear of the building, we're proposing an actual shipping container to use as storage, additional
The two are
storage.
mutually
One of those
exclusive.
things to see on ships.
I understand that. Now, I'm concerned about what is going to be in that container. And,
Gasoline.
Propane and hopefully not gas.
well,
Mr. Dean, in that container, there could be 50 cases of water, 30 cases of Coca-Cola, stuff that the store goes through every single day. One of the things that they're trying to do is cut down the deliveries into the stores to make it more shoppable for the consumer and make it easier for the staff to keep the inventory and stock in the store. I can't give you an exact number of what's going to be, how many cases are going to be stored in the container. It's really as an as-needed basis.
okay, and from what you're indicating, there's the filled containers rather than empties. That's what's going to be on the in sort of your basket
On the left,
area on the
on the left-hand side of the store.
Left side of the building, right?
Yes, sir. So as you bring in your empty container, it would go on one side of the cage, the full tank could come out on the other side, and they swap it out, and then that's serviced by, is it Parco that's going to service that?
That's correct,
Parco would be servicing that.
Okay, and only the full containers, that's the only ones that are on the, on your cage on the, the left or essentially the northwest side of the building.
It would be in the cage would have full containers in it, and as you swap out a container, by law, we have to keep that container the empty container secured. So the empty container will go into the cage and the full container would come out.
Okay, then do you know what the number of containers in that cage would be, assuming they would all be filled?
2, 4, 6, 12. Between 12 and 24, sir.
12 and 24. Okay, that sounds to me a bit safer than, 200 or so, which
Oh,
could
yeah,
fit into the
no,
back area.
12 to 24.
Okay.
Peter?
I think I know the answer to this, but just to clarify and put it on record, you do not intend on putting any hazardous materials of any kind in the rear storage container. Is that a true statement?
Yes, sir. It would be, food product for the grocery and some cleaning supplies.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Did the fire marshal have comments on this?
I did not receive any comments, but I would add a condition that the propane installation be to the satisfaction of the fire marshal.
Okay. And there was nothing from Derek?
No, the engineering department had no comments.
All right, good.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I would endorse that condition if it's contained in a resolution from the commission. My main concern about this application is the matter of public safety, fire safety.
All right. Does anybody in the public want to comment on this application?
Good evening, Tom Mazzarella, 600 Walcott Hill Road. I'm speaking on behalf of a family member. My sister Jean Mazzarella lives at 11 Stillman Walk, which is directly behind the beauty salon, or I don't know what the other options were. So, my concern is the visual impact. There was quite a bit of tree trimming, tree removal in the back of the property. When the foliage is down, we can see directly the rear of the building. So whatever screening you can do would be appreciated. I don't have the drawing in front of me. I don't know if there's going to be truck deliveries being made to that container from the rear. It's looks like it's going to be grass. So I would ask that you might consider some arborvitaes or something of that nature. The white fence will certainly cover the shipping container, but I think it might be more of a visual impact than, you know, bright white fence versus a, you know, gray or rusty colored shipping container. So just ask that you ask the applicant to do whatever he can to minimize the visual impact of the shipping container. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, come on back up.
In the process of doing the remodeling work in the new facade at the store, the back of the building will be painted. It's a jet black, which is one of the corporate logo colors for Atlantis Markets, and the storage container will be freshly painted. We'll provide fencing or arborvitaes to screen that in. The owners, Danny works for the owner on the general.
We can certainly propose some green giants in the back of the building. Over time, I'm sure that will be sufficient enough to block any view from across the way.
I'm sorry, propose what again?
Green giants,
Green beans.
evergreens, yeah.
They're evergreens, it could be arborvitaes, sir. It's just a type of shrubbery. The owner's very conscious of what the buildings looks like. They're going through a major facade upgrade on the building to make it look beautiful and more presentable to the store. There's a lot of work going on there. We're very fortunate to be working with them on that, and they just want to be really good neighbors.
Yeah, and I definitely suggest waiting until the fire marshal chimes in before deciding if we're going fence or plantings or anything, because who knows what that radius is going to need to be.
Of course.
It seemed to me reasonable to provide a condition to require the applicant, upon approval, to consult with and obtain the approval of town staff for the appropriate screening of that area, and delegate the matter of the screening, whether it's in the form of plantings or fence or whatever, to the town staff to work with the applicant to establish the appropriate screening.
Absolutely.
I would just like to say that on behalf of one of the residents that lives back there, they prefer trees. So I don't think we should leave it up to the town. If trees are okay with you, and just as a question, how do you get your goods back there? If you're not bringing your truck, are you going to walk it with?
Okay, so there's a couple of different ways that the store is going to handle that, sir. So the deliveries happen in the front of the store. The sidewalk that we put in on the left-hand side of the building will lead to the back of the storage container, which will have a roll-up door. Material will go in there. On bad weather days, there's a door from inside the building that will lead into the storage container, and that's how the staff will be getting material out of the storage container to stock the store. So we have two different ways that we can get that in there. There won't be trucks in the back of the building or on the side of the building or anything along that line.
So if you plant trees behind your container, I don't see, based on
It
what
won't
you
affect,
said,
it won't
I don't
affect our
see
deliveries or
that
anything like
You're going to
that.
affect your deliveries at all with that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, not to get ahead of ourselves, because the hearing's technically still open, but I think you know, we should indicate, if it is so, that our preference would be trees, because you do have the CLMP easement there, and you're very limited in what you can do in that area. And, you know, they may actually have inches between the corners of the storage container and the side yard setback on one side and the CLMP easement on the other. So, you know, I don't want to create a condition that's an impossibility, if it comes to that.
Understand.
Right.
We can reach out to CLMP and get some feedback from them on some screening. That will work with them also.
Well, they're the ones who cut down all the trees, so you kind of get a sense of where they,
we know
where they
their
end up on
opinion.
that.
Well, I think on the tree part of it, as this gentleman mentioned, arborvitaes would be a good selection because they stay green all year long, and it would provide the coverage that your sister-in-law was looking for, so she doesn't see that. So that might be a very nice choice, and they grow tall and narrow.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
All right, anything else we need from them? If not, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Someone want to make a motion?
I'll attempt it. I move that we approve public hearing 2145-23Z AMG Retail LLC, number 516, seeking special permit in accordance with section 53B6, accessory use of installation of outdoor storage of propane gas with crash barriers in section 36C2, accessory building and structures for storage containers of Wethersfield Zoning regulations at 384 Southeastern Highway, with the stipulation that the applicant confer with both the town staff and the right-of-way owner, the utility, for appropriate screening to be placed behind the 8x8x40 container in the rear of the building, with the preference of this commission to be trees of some type, arborvitaes or such, to provide adequate screening.
And that you get feedback from the fire marshal on the propane tank.
Thank you. And that we get feedback from the fire marshal on the location and use of the propane tanks on the, I think it's the left side or that must be the north side of the building.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any other conditions? Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
This material's going
All right, other business?
a hell of a lot more dangerous.
There's no other business.
All right, there are no minutes?
Unfortunately, there was an issue with the recording at the last public hearing, and we do not have a recording available at all of that meeting. Thankfully, there was limited to that bond, so we were able to get the motions, but there will not be a set of minutes generated for that meeting.
Conspiracy.
We just unveiled a new software system, and unfortunately, the first time using it, it did not work.
Well, it was 23 minutes. We all know that.
Right, yeah.
It was a
I saw
short
that.
of 7 problem, right?
I mean, it was for any meeting to have that problem, thankfully it was not.
Yeah,
The truth is out there.
all right. Staff reports?
As I had mentioned at the last meeting, I'm just finalizing the suggested changes to the plan of development, which I would like to have up to CROG so we can schedule for the second meeting in July 18th. So I have created a Dropbox, and I will send you guys links to all of those. They also have the RFP, if any of you have any comments on that. Additionally, at the next hearing, there's an application for 318 Silestine Highway. It's a conversion of a existing mixed-use property that the residential unit is on the second floor, and there's a hair salon that is no longer in business on the main floor. They'd like to flip the residential to the first floor and have the commercial on the second floor. We also have a new text amendment for modification to the cannabis regulations. They're a potential interested party. The property falls within the separation distance that was set for religious institutions. So that is what they are asking you to consider a change to. And then the public hearing for 99 Hereford Avenue has actually just been withdrawn today, so that won't go forward. And then in addition to what's listed on the agenda, there is also a pending application for the July 18th meeting for a zoning text amendment to change the business park zone permitted uses to allow for drive-throughs. And the text amendment was prompted because the Starbucks application that has been seen through the historic district and had been pending for Wetlands Commission, drive-throughs are not permitted in the business park zone. So there are hospitality uses generally, and that's how the original ABC Burger was approved at that location, but drive-throughs specifically in business park zones are not. So they're looking to include a provision that would allow for that type of use in that zone.
And that's a text amendment, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What day is our next meeting?
The next meeting is June 20th. The town council did just move their meeting from June 19th to the 20th, so we will be bumped to the EOC that night, but I thought would probably be better to keep it on the Tuesday night, just because we typically have an issue getting quorums on Wednesdays, and it's short notice.
Yeah, I mean, I only ask because I have a conflict on both Tuesday and Wednesday that
Okay.
week.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Public comments?
Just me? Do I have to say my name again?
Yes, please.
Christine Kelly Lasella, 37 Belmont Street in Wethersfield. I'm disappointed in the decision, but I respect what you all spoke and said. I feel it's unfortunate that dining at the Charles or dining at Luna Pizza was compared, because some people choose to just go out for pizza because that's where they want to go or what's in their budget. I do respect what you decided, and maybe I'll come back and pursue it. For me, continuity and everyone having the same treatment on Main Street is important, so maybe I should join the Shopkeepers Association or something and maybe work towards that, because I think that would be fair. Really what I wanted to come up here quickly, I wanted to set the record straight on something that happened at the April 4th meeting, and I felt, I don't know if I was embarrassed. I guess I was embarrassed. I had people phone me after that meeting and say, what happened in the parking lot after planning and zoning? So some people, I guess, had watched it. So I went back and looked at the video, and the gentleman across the street came back in, and he stated that he had a brief meeting with the applicant in the parking lot, not of his choice. He did not appreciate them doing a dance on him. And he said some other things. That evening when I left here, I left with my father, Alex, who owns Luna Pizza, and Andy Sanzaro. Andy and I were getting into his vehicle, and Mr. O'Connor came out behind us. We were almost in the car, aggressively kind of walking fast, and he stated, "Oh, great job, guys." And I turned and looked because I didn't know who it was. And he said, you know, you made it personal. He made a comment about Andy has never come and introduced himself to him, and he's not a good neighbor. And then he pointed his finger, and this is where, for me especially, I think I have a reasonable reputation in this town. And he looked at me and he said to Andy, you're a liar. It was something to do with parking on the street. And he said, she parks on the street. And I said, yes, I do. I park right in front of the bus stop. And he kind of poo-pooed it and said, well, I don't really care about that. It would be you or some other a-hole. And he said the word, and to me that's offensive. I did not swear at him, I did not approach him, and I did not want to have conversation. I asked him to repeat what he said to me, and he did. And then I asked him to step away from me and not to speak about me or any of my customers like that. At my age, I don't want to sit here and be the tattletale, but I want it on the record, because in 2 years, I may not come back here. Some of you might have retired from the board, but I think it's important for it to be on the record. We did not pursue him. We did not engage in conversation. And Andy and I kept walking to the car, and I don't know, he was saying some other things, and then he stuck his tongue out and like raspberried us. And like, it's like he doesn't like us. I'm sorry for that, but I've never met the man until that night. I would have come back sooner. I had some medical problems, and I had actually, the day before that, I had just gotten out of the hospital, but I came for that meeting, and I felt his behavior was disrespectful and inappropriate, and I guess I just want to have that on record for myself, so that if anybody questions it down the way, we're not really bad people. We're actually pretty good people. And I thank you all for your time. I do respect what you say and what you vote on. It's a lot what you do. So thank you again. Have a good night.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, and I felt that tonight was appropriately civil, and I hope that, all of the future interactions,
I've never talked to the man ever, right? And
No, I know.
never will.
Yeah.
But if he called and had any kind of a complaint, I would be the first person to address it, because
Yeah.
I do respect people.
No, I know.
And it's important.
Yeah, it's difficult, but we try to
Yeah.
keep personalities and
And like I said,
issues out
I
of.
just wanted it on record, so my side of the story, I'm an honest person, and I'm a pretty kind person,
Okay,
so.
thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Correspondence. Anybody write us any letters?
No, we did not get any letters. The only correspondence that we added was the development update that the Economic Development Director put together for your last EDIC meeting, so at your second meeting in June, I'll have another updated version from this month.
Okay.
I know that you had also asked for a quarterly zoning report, so I will touch base with the zoning enforcement officer and see if I can get that onto the agenda for you guys also.
Thanks, it's been about a quarter. Right. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up? I hope we get some fresh air between now and the next meeting so that we're not all.
I can't stop coughing.
I'm looking at a barbecue.
I noticed that my voice is like lower
Yeah,
than
I
optic.
can hear
Yeah.
these ones, yeah.
But
It's
my-
that smoke from Canada
That's right.
filtering
Yeah,
down.
well,
Everything.
between the pollen of the century
My eyes
and
and-
Canadian
yeah.
smoke, I think we're all getting.
Hey, Tom, we were just laughing down here when we were talking about the container earlier on, and you asked me, are there going to be any hazardous materials in the container? We're like, no, just the cigarettes, Twinkies, Cheetos. These are like, one more.
All have warning labels all over them. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty much carbon heavy to me.
In the state of
They're all FDA
California, that
warnings,
wouldn't be
they're
allowed
not
to
allowed.
exist.
All right.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion to.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.